Naruto Uzumaki's big dream was to be the leader of his village, the Hokage. But is that goal actually that hard to achieve anyways? Well, turns out, absolutely. Because in order to be Hokage, you need a ton of really unique qualities, like the strength to defend the Hidden Leaf village against the strongest characters in all of Naruto, the sense of leadership and charisma to rally your own people, and the intelligence to operate an entire country's government, just to name a few here. None of these are easy tasks, and I bet that you're wondering what other really big and strong anime characters could actually achieve and handle this very role, like say Asta, Frieren, or even Eren Yeager. But first, let's kick things off with the three Monkey Kings: Luffy, Goku, and Jin Mori. Now we do know that Hiruzen, the third Hokage, loves his own stretchy monkey pelt, so surely the most famous characters based on the journey to the west could be a Hokage, right? So, Captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy, you're on deck. Now when it comes to leadership, there is absolutely no doubt, I think, that he is more than qualified. After all, he is the warrior of liberation, a man whose very existence rallies people to his side. Mihawk even said that it's his greatest and most dangerous quality that he has. In other words, Luffy would rally Konoha in a heartbeat, and strength-wise, with his Gear 5th transformation, he's able to dodge light-speed attacks from Kizaru and the Gorosei, plus he can deliver island-level destruction with his Byron-gun as well. But unfortunately, he's hardcore lacking in the intelligence department. He's not exactly the brightest bulb in the bunch, to put it lightly. I mean, emotionally yes, but you get what I'm saying. Meaning it's a yes in leadership, a probably yes in terms of strength, and a really hard no when it comes to intelligence and governing really anything that is more than 5 people. So sorry, Straw Hat, you can't solve international conflicts or trade problems by punching everybody. That's called a declaration of war, it turns out. Which in my book at least means that this future Pirate King absolutely fails as a Hokage, though it did cross my mind that red hair Shanks could probably do it, so I guess you have something else to prove, Shanks? And hey, I guess at least Tobirama found a new apprentice in the form of Zoro. Took him forever to find someone that actually thinks the way that he does. But next up though, we have yet another Monkey King, Son Goku from Dragon Ball. And as you can imagine, he's generally in a very similar spot as Luffy. Without a formal education, his intelligence is somewhat lacking, meaning that he's got a no in that department right off the bat. However, his power dwarfs nearly every other contender on this list. He's a freaking Super Saiyan, so of course he is more than strong enough. So that's a clear yes in terms of strength, and honestly, with that level of power, you don't even need to be that smart, I would argue. So while his power could make up for the intelligence difference, it all comes down to leadership, which, oh man, that's a bummer. You absolutely stink, Goku. Let's face it, he doesn't lead anyone. He sort of just drags everyone along with him, and they kind of all have to constantly fix his problems. Like, without Bulma around, he'd be screwed for most of his adventures. It's really her ambition to get the Dragon Balls that starts his story to begin with, after all. So with a clear no in leadership, Goku, I think you're never gonna be able to become the Hokage. Your son Gohan, on the other hand, he's way smarter and could probably absolutely pull it off, I think. And man, I really hope at least one alien on this list can actually take over a country like he's supposed to. We'll see. But don't you guys worry, because our third Monkey King of the list could absolutely be Hokage, I think. I'm talking about the man, the myth, the Wukong, Jin Mori from the anime God of High School, which really badly butchered an otherwise really good story. Now, he's not exactly the brightest bulb in the bunch, but he is pretty decently educated, and well, huge spoiler alert for the story, so skip ahead if you like. Jin Mori is literally an immortal god thousands of years old. That's right, he isn't just inspired by Sun Wukong, he actually is him. Meaning that he has led divine armies, rallied the universe to his side, and has enlightened intellect as well. So you, sir, I think, absolutely have the will of fire and could wear that Hokage head with a lot of pride, no problem whatsoever. Also, I guess I should probably have made that clear from the beginning too. The will of fire is something passed down and embodied by the greatest shinobi in the village. So for the few non-Naruto people out there, first of all, nice that you're watching that video, I guess, but despite Konoha being the Hidden Leaf village, it's actually inside a nation known as the Land of Fire, funnily enough. And so the Hokage Hokage literally means the fire shadow. The more you know, I guess, huh? But back to our candidates now. I told you guys, being the leader of the Hidden Leaf is not easy, and while some heroic legends on the list will be actually able to pull it off, a lot of people are just straight up not qualified for it, even though they are really strong and the main characters even in their own universes. Like Gon Freaks from Hunter x Hunter. Quite frankly, he's just a hilly-billy child who just wants to adventure throughout the world, and even at the peak of his power, he might be able to hold his own against some of the top-level Naruto threats, like Pain or maybe even Obito, but not when they reach their full reality warping level of strength, I would say. Sorry kid, but you've got a no in all 3 categories and can't do it at all, but I don't think you really wanted to either, so maybe just leave that sort of stuff to the chairman Neteros of the world. And speaking of nice guys who punch really hard, let's also talk about Itadori Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen. And Yuji's actually a pretty interesting case. Intelligence, he's absolutely got that. I mean, he's nowhere near his brother Todo's 530,000 level IQ, but he's definitely a lot smarter than Naruto in that department, I would argue. Like, my man Yuji here has a secondary level of education, and he did way more school than Naruto ever did. Also, did you ever stop to really think about that? Like, the Ninja Academy is the only school we actually ever see in Naruto, and they end at like, what, 12? Makes you kind of wonder if they have a regular high school for non-shinobi people as well. But anyway, enough about the bad education system of the Konoha village, back to Itadori. Now, from a leadership standpoint, he's not really anything super special. I mean, his friends like him, but he also leaves that side of things to his mentors and peers usually. But hey, that's not the end of the world if you're really strong, and well, he kind of is. I mean, like, he physically is an absolute beast, but there aren't really any good feats that match up to the types of Naruto or Sasuke. I mean, yes, he does square up with Sukuna for a while, but I don't even think that the King of Curses himself stacks up against anyone in the higher ranks of the Naruto world, if we're honest. I actually just made a video recently talking about a fight between him and Madara. So, unfortunately, this pink-haired anime boy will never get to use a Rasengan or wear that cool hat and cape either. So maybe instead, another pink-haired anime protagonist will have an actual shot here. And while we are talking about people whose whole vibe is just hit really hard, let's talk about the man who picked up Naruto's role in modern anime, Asta from Black Clover. After all, when you think about it, he has got a demon inside of him, wants to become the leader of his country, like being the highest rank of his thing, that case being a wizard, not a ninja, and has an edgy and more talented orphaned rival as well. Sounds kind of like Naruto to me, if you ask me. Now, not to mention that he's in the exact same boat as our ramen-loving friend here, because he's got mad strength, especially with his demon swords, and if anti-magic just becomes anti-chakra powers, this man's going to dominate the entire shinobi world. And despite his general appearance, he's not dumb either. Again, he's far from being super bright, but he's comparable to at least Naruto, I would say. The man learned to fly by just tossing his sword really hard, which I would say takes some brains if you ask me. And for those of you who think that it actually just takes muscles, what else do you think the brain actually is, dummy? Never mind that, I guess. Just fact check myself here, and it turns out I'm probably wrong. Yeah. All right, never mind. That was a fail. But anyways, for me, that's still a yes in strength and in leadership, and a probably in terms of intelligence, meaning that you can actually be Hokage Asta. Arguably, Yuno would still be better though. Sorry, dude. I wonder if Naruto could actually be the Wizard King though. Maybe that's the next video that we should do. Anyways, let me know what you would like to see next in the comments. But do you know who else could definitely become the Hokage? That would be the world's greatest hero, Izuku Midoriya from My Hero Academia. Yet another one of the modern shonen goats. This kid has really got it all. For one, he's an absolute next level thinker with some great battle IQ and raw intelligence, plus, as shown in the Bakugo rescue arc and the final fight against Shigaraki, he's a truly fierce leader that inspires heroes and even some villains. Like, even folks like the gentle criminal are actually inspired to change their ways by Midoriya, which doesn't actually sound all that intense, but this dude was a legitimate murderer. But of course, most importantly, Midoriya packs a real punch. With all for one, ain't nobody stopping him. Now, I don't think that he's quite Naruto tier, but I think he could definitely at the very least hold himself against some of the other Kage across the Naruto universe. Now, if only he could also land himself a girlfriend. Oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be that mean to you, Deku. Apologies. All right, we've now talked about a lot of real powerhouses, and while we still have a bunch of top-level demon lords and military commanders to come, I do think we should also talk a little bit more about some really smart people. Because as Danzo proved to us, sometimes all it takes is special eyes and an evil spirit in order to become the Hokage. Meaning that, Lelouch, you're up next, kid. Now, the main man from Code Geass here has some real Magnus Carlsen level of thinking going on. He's a little brainiac capable of staging massive political coups and outsmarting the world's elites. So he's got more than enough intellect to pull off becoming Hokage for sure. And as for leadership, he's an absolute mastermind when it comes to people manipulation as well. He's charismatic on the outside and quite devilish behind the scenes, the sign of a true politician, in other words. And while raw power isn't his strong suit really, his Geass could absolutely help him work his way up the ladder to the top. I mean, we have seen over and over again just how dangerous the Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu actually can be, especially when it comes to taking over a nation. As I mentioned earlier, Danzo pulls it off pretty well during the 5 Kage summit as well. But I think it's actually Obito who shows just how truly terrifying it is by taking over Yagura, the Jinchuriki, and the Mizukage of the Hidden Mist with his Genjutsu powers as well. Remember, the tailed beasts are a Genjutsu get out of jail free card basically, as proven by Naruto and Killer Bee, who literally state their tailed beasts act as a second party, waking them up from their illusions. But Obito does it to a tailed beast user, and I'm pretty certain that Lelouch's Geass would work the same way. All it takes is a few wildly phrased commands, and this man will be leading Konoha with an iron fist. Very much unlike our next manipulative mastermind, Eren Yeager. Now, let's face it, homeless Sasuke over here isn't exactly Lelouch levels of smart, and I'm sure that some of you are gonna argue, oh what? Of course he is, because he orchestrated the entire series with his time travel whispering powers after all. And while sure, you're not wrong that he technically did do that, you're actually still wrong because he didn't do that. Okay, I'm kind of talking in circles here, but that's the problem. Eren wasn't in control at all. That's the whole point of the entire show, right? He was basically just enacting Ymir's will. For the entirety of the series, he was driven by fate, and fate did not tell him to become Hokage. Instead, it said commit a genocide with your big scary titans who aren't here. So unless the Hokage mountain actually is completely made up of titans, his powers are absolutely useless in this world. No rumbling, no Hokage title. And without all of these titans, he's just one man that gets destroyed by one Kamui, one Amaterasu, or one Rasen Shuriken. I mean, even if his Warhammer Titan abilities are strong, they're still kind of like Kimimaru levels of durable if you ask me, so how is that thing supposed to handle a Susanoo if it can't even handle a little rocket? You get my drift here? I will give you some credit though, Eren Yeager. I'm pretty sure that you'd be a heartthrob just like Sasuke is. But next up, we shift from Eren to Frieren. Let's see if this ancient elf's got what it actually takes. And just on paper, she's got a lot of merit to herself. She's a genius because, well, 1,000 years of research and life will just do that for you, I guess. And when it comes to leadership, while she might not be the most charismatic MC, she does lead her group quite well, I would argue. She's a great teacher and an excellent role model, and she clearly has learned a lot about people from Himmel the hero. And despite being an oversleeper, she probably would just have her newly discovered shadow clones take care of things for her. So right off the get-go, that's a yes in intelligence and a good enough, I would say, in terms of leadership. So what about actual power? Now, well, I'd say that this is actually a lot harder than the Itadori situation from earlier because she's actually an unstoppable beast. Her magic is incredible and we've yet to see anyone really make her struggle even slightly. With a broad variety of spells, ways to use them, and a constant desire to learn more and more, she's like a shorter, sassier Kakashi. If her Zoltrak and other flashy spells can take down the Demon King, I think she could probably hold her own against something like the Ninetales, right? I mean, she is the best Demon Slayer after all. So, in my opinion, Frieren could 100% become a Hokage, developing the world's knowledge of jutsu, much like Tobirama Senju, but like with a lot less racism, I guess. And we still got a bunch of candidates left, and they are some of the craziest, weirdest, and strongest out there. I promise the last one is without question the best for the job. But before we get there, we first have to continue with one of the most interesting candidates out there. This little kid. His name is Bocchi, and while he may not look like it, he's absolutely Kage level. And I'm not talking about his little shadowy body either. You see, this teeny tiny bundle of sunshine from Ranking of Kings is just the most vibrant, kind, and sweet leader out there. Everyone, and I mean everyone, loves him. They all support his endeavors, and he's a phenomenal leader and king in his very own right. In other words, that is leadership if I've ever seen it. He's young, but he's still got room to grow quite a lot. Not literally, he's kind of stuck being that small thanks to his stupid dad, who I absolutely should have put in my worst dads in anime video. Now that I think about it, that was a bit of a miss, but he's also pretty darn smart. Now, he was raised by his stepmother, and even though his brother was framed to be the king, Bocchi learned a lot about politics and the world, but he also has incredible emotional intelligence as well. Basically, unlike anyone that I've ever seen. So that's a yes in terms of intelligence as well, plus with expert sensory ninja like Ino at his side, communication will also be way easier. Okay, but come on, there's no way that this pipsqueak here is strong, right? Yeah, you're wrong. This kid is a freak. He's stupidly fast, outspeeding impossible to avoid attacks like Oken the Immortal Warrior's Shirasampe like it's nobody's business. I'm not saying that he's quite yellow Flash levels, but easily faster than a car. Something that we do know is super important from Karuto, which was my ultimate Naruto character, but back to Bocchi for now. Using his speed and precision, he targets his opponent's weak spots, taking them all down in one quick strike. If you want, he's kind of like Rock Lee and Kakashi wrapped into one cute little package. So you're not only a king, but also a great Hokage in my book, Bocchi. But how about a real swordsman though? A universe-slashing, death-defying nightmare. Ichigo? Could you actually do it? Could you be the Hokage? Well, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, are you guys kidding me? Between all these Bankai, Hollow, and Quincy forms, this dude is basically a literal god slayer. Getsuga Tensho this and spiritual pressure that, we do know that you're more than strong enough to actually hold your own as a Hokage. Feel free to fight me in the comments about this. Now, he's also a little smarty pants and a pretty decent leader. One of the Soul Society's finest, actually. I mean, he's no Aizen or Urahara, but as I previously mentioned, since there's no high school education in Konohagakure, he is more than smart enough compared to someone like Naruto, who also pulled it off. So yes, Ichigo Kurosaki, you've got what it takes to be the leader of the Hidden Leaf. Probably unlike this next hot-headed dragon slayer, Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tail. Now sure, you've got the power of the legendary dragons in your corner, but you're kinda dumb as a box of rocks, dude. I wouldn't trust you watching my nephew, let alone running an entire country. And quite frankly, without the likes of Makarov, Laxus, or Ersa around to actually lead your guild, you aren't getting anywhere as a leader either. So, sorry Salamander, you may have really good firepower, but definitely not the will of fire. Which is actually insane because instead, this little goofy frog dude might actually be able to do it instead. God, I'm actually talking about Surgeon Frog on YouTube in 2024. Okay. Anyways, for those of you, and it's probably most of you, this little dude here is Keroro. He's a respected military leader and incredible warrior capable of destroying planets with his Kero Ball technique, and also knows a goddess of destruction who casually helps him out whenever he really needs it. But now that I think about it, he might just get into an argument with the toads at Mount Myoboku, so frog versus toad battles can get intense, I guess. But that aside, with his advanced intellect, proven leadership skills, and immense power, and I kinda hate to admit it, but this little pervy frog who actually lives in a kid's basement is absolutely actual Hokage level tier material. What an absolute joke. Like, Natsu, Luffy, Eren, you guys suck. How in the world could you let this happen? Alrighty, but now it's time to talk about someone who actually really deserves this title. A character who I think is more qualified to be Hokage more than anyone else on this entire list. He's a god, he's a tactical genius, and he's the smartest character in his universe by default, and turns out he's also a slime.
That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about.
Of course, there was no doubt ever that Rimuru Tempest, the supreme leader of the Jura Tempest Federation and true demon lord, would be a absolutely phenomenal Hokage as well. With his ultimate skills, he's practically the ultimate ninja as is. He has mastered all of the elements with nature manipulation, much like Kakashi or Madara. He can teleport and distort space and time like Tobirama and Minato. His physical power dwarfs that of Tsunade. His light speed and universe level feats body that of Naruto. And his leadership abilities far exceed even the god of the shinobi, Hashirama Senju, and Hiruzen Sarutobis.
That's why he's the GOAT!
I mean, come on, this guy has successfully built a nation, the world's greatest nation, mind you, from absolute scratch. From his mind, ability to rally others, and universal love and affection. Nobody, and I mean nobody, steps to this man and lives to tell the tale. Calamities, heroes, other demon lords, he just crushes them all. Because that's what it really takes to lead a nation like this. Ferocity, strength, and a lot of respect. If you can rally the Storm Dragon, the god Luminous, and Milim the Destroyer, you know that you've got what it takes to defend an entire country. Heck, the dude is single-handedly ending racism in his own world. Like, people respect and care about monsters now. That is actually insane. Tobirama, why couldn't you do that, huh? I mean, needless to say, this man is
perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
And wow, I thought being Hokage would be a lot easier actually, especially for characters with incredibly high power levels. People like Goku or Luffy losing out because they're just stupid levels of, well, stupid. It just goes to show you how crucial a decent level of intellect and sharp wit actually are when it comes to running civilization. And in the end, characters like Lelouch and Frieren actually stole spots that I wouldn't have expected with those big old brain of theirs. And it does kind of make you wonder, right, how they'd stack up against each other though, right? Like, are they the smartest characters in anime? Well, possibly, but you'll actually have to check out this video about the dumbest to smartest anime characters ever in order to find out who is actually the dumbest and who's actually the smartest. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. I know it's really annoying to hear from so many YouTubers, but it really helps a small channel like this grow, and we really want to keep making these fun videos because we're having a real blast putting these together. All right, see you in the next one.